Rehabilitation following latissimus dorsi transfer is greatly facilitated by the use of biofeedback training. I'd like to acknowledge the work of our excellent therapist who assisted with this technique. The aims of rehabilitation are to facilitate the activation of the transferred latissimus dorsi during flexion and external rotation of the arm, and to maximize the patient's ability to elevate the arm and maintain external rotation for daily living activities such as combing the hair and feeding. This is a three-phase technique with isometric shoulder adduction, followed by isometric shoulder adduction with external rotation and the J maneuver, each using biofeedback for the training program. A standard biofeedback unit consists of the unit itself, which gives audible and visual feedback, and the leads and electrodes which are attached to the skin. First, we have the patient perform an adduction maneuver against a towel to palpate latissimus contraction. Then the electrodes are placed along the latissimus muscle belly. We then have the patient isometrically adduct the arm to maintain maximum effort and record the highest signal on the biofeedback unit. Using this data, we select the threshold range of 20 to 30% of maximum to set auditory and visual cues on the device. The goal is to isolate a contraction strong enough to reach the set threshold while performing one of the maneuvers of adduction external rotation and combined flexion external rotation. In step 1, the elbow is flexed 90 degrees, the pillow is placed between the arm and the trunk, and the patient adducts the arm against the pillow to contract the latissimus. This is first performed without the biofeedback unit. Here the patient is adducting the arm against the side to gain a sense of contraction of the latissimus. The biofeedback unit is then added. As the patient now adducts the arm, he receives visual and auditory cues as to the contraction of the muscle. Next, the pillow is placed between the arm with the arm abducted 30 degrees, and the patient is instructed to externally rotate while adducting against the pillow, thus coupling these two muscle activities. This is first performed without the biofeedback device. Here the patient is adducting the arm and attempting to externally rotate, thus coupling these two motions, training the latissimus to become an external rotator. The biofeedback unit is then added. Now as the patient adducts the arm and externally rotates, he receives visual and auditory cues, informing him as to his ability to activate the muscle as a combined external rotator and adductor. The J maneuver is performed with the shoulder assisted to 90 degrees of flexion, and then the patient pulls downward and across his body to set the latissimus contraction, and then attempts to maintain this contraction while raising the arm into flexion, thus tracing the letter J. This is first performed without the biofeedback unit. Here the patient's arm is raised, and now the patient is instructed to pull downward and into adduction across the body as the latissimus contracts, and then he is asked to raise his arm in flexion. The biofeedback unit is then applied. The J maneuver is then repeated so that the contraction of the latissimus he sets is maintained during flexion, and the patient can train his latissimus to do this.